Hello friends, good evening. I welcome you all to another edition of Daily News Analysis. So in this particular edition, we are going to discuss some very important articles that were featured in the Hindu and Indian Express newspapers. So in the explain section that is important from the perspective of prelims particularly, we are going to discuss four important articles. The first one being SCO Defense Ministers meeting which will be held between June 25 to 27 in China. This particular article is important particularly from the perspective of prelims as well as mains, knowing what exactly is this SCO, what is the purpose of having this particular organization and how it plays into larger India's global south strategy. At the same time, India Central Asia relations, very important from the perspective of mains. The second important article that we are going to discuss is about the analysis of cost of pearls and oil imports, particularly edible oil imports, knowing the trends in these pulses, edible oils and those sort of uh, crops is important from the perspective of prelims. So, you may get the questions on the trends part particularly. Another important article that we are going to discuss is about the Magna Carta. So, what exactly is this Magna Carta, where it was originated, how it has inspired the democracies over the years and how it has played in the role in India's own parliamentary evolution, that we are going to discuss in that particular article. Another important article that we are going to discuss is about rethinking alcohol control in India. So, the article here argues for the national alcohol control policy, national level alcohol control policy. So, what exactly alcohol limits particularly, what exactly the policy should be, all those dimensions we are going to cover in that particular article. Particularly in the decoded section, we are going to discuss one very important initiative called Kudum Shri, which is obviously originated in Kerala, very important from the perspective of women empowerment particularly. Most of the time you may get the question particularly from when it comes to GS2 or GS1 at the same time, that women empowerment is important thing and women led SHGs and the promotion done by the government in that regard is often the focus area for the mains. So, stay tuned for that particular article, very important particularly from the perspective of mains. Now, the first important article that we are going to discuss is about the upcoming defense ministers meeting in China, which will be held between June 25 and 27 with regard to SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So, essentially this is relevant from the perspective of GS2, particularly regional groupings is often asked most of the time from the perspective of mains, but from the perspective of prelims, knowing how the organization is structured, what are the member countries is also important thing. So, essentially the upcoming visit will happen in China's Qingdao province from June 25 to 27 as I earlier said. Now, the thing is, Rajnath Singh is expected to meet other defense ministers from the SCO states including Iran, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan and Belarus. So, these are the member states of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So, defense minister is going to meet with these countries ministers at the same time. So, at the same time, one of the foremost thing this meeting will does is the steps towards normalization of India-China ties. So, essentially the India-China relations in particular are moving towards the normalization now. Why? Essentially Modi and Xi are expected to meet again at the BRICS summit in Brazil, which will happen from July 6 to 7. Essentially knowing the background of BRICS is also important. We have seen the expansion of BRICS last year. So, essentially you must know what are the member countries now of BRICS and which country particularly has withdrawn itself from the BRICS in recent times. That is also important part when it comes to prelims. Now, the thing is, the normalization between India and China is on the way. PM Modi is also been invited to attend the SCO Heads of State Summit in Tianjin, China later this year. So, Heads of State Summit which is going to happen later this year in China, PM is also going to he may attend that summit as well, but he got the invite. That is the that shows that India and China are on path towards normalization of their relationship despite having the bumpy rides in recent times. So, essentially knowing basic in detail about Shanghai Cooperation Organization is now important from the perspective of prelims. See, SCO is a permanent intergovernmental international organization that focuses on political, economic, international security and defense matters in Eurasia. Eurasia, Europe plus Asia essentially. SCO encompasses approximately 60% of the Eurasian area and 40% of the global population. So, you must remember this sort of data. Most of the time you can utilize such data in your mains answers. The combined GDP of its member states accounts for around 20% of global GDP. So, you can see the importance of SCO as an organization. It is headquartered in Beijing, China. Another important fact from the perspective of particularly prelims. Official languages, the recognized official languages under SCO are Russian and Chinese. See, most of the time Russia and China are the pivotal members when it comes to SCO. That is why it has been headquartered in China. At the same time, official languages recognized under SCOs are also Russian and Chinese. So, what is the evolution? Essentially, it was formed way back in 1996 as a Shanghai 5. Then it is renamed as SCO with Uzbekistan's inclusion in 2001. Then India and Pakistan both joined in 2017, and then Iran joined as a full member in 2023. So, you can see the overall transition of SCO from 1996 until 23. So, from initial Shanghai 5 to 2023 inclusion of Iran, the trajectory is important. Just remember that particular trajectory. So, what are the goals of SCO? To strengthen mutual trust, friendship and good neighborliness among its member states, promote cooperations in areas such as politics, trade, economy, culture, education and energy, etc. Mostly Shanghai spirit is its mantra. So, what exactly is the Shanghai spirit? Mutual trust, mutual benefit, equality, consultation, respect for diversity of civilizations and pursuit of common development. So, essentially SCO works on these sort of principles. Essentially, knowing the countries who are the original member states, as I said, Shanghai 5 are there, and then there are dialogue partners, then there are observer states as well. So, currently the member states are India, Iran, Kazakhstan, China, Kyrgyz Republic, Pakistan, Russia, Tajikistan and Uzbekistan. So, just remember these countries, form some sort of short form in that regard to remember these particular countries. Now, observer states are Afghanistan, Belarus and Mongolia. Dialogue partners, there are lot of countries are considered as a dialogue partners for SCO. There is Azerbaijan, there is Armenia, there is Bahrain, Egypt, Cambodia, Qatar, Kuwait, Maldives, Myanmar, Nepal, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Turkey and Sri Lanka. So, these are the observer states. So, essentially what are some organizational structures when it comes to SCO? There is Council of Head of States, okay, supreme decision making body of the SCO. It meets once a year and decides upon all the important issues of the organization. Then there is a Council of Heads of Government, Prime Ministers, CHG. Then there is a Regional Anti-Terrorist Structure, RATS. So, it is a permanent body of the SCO focused on combating terrorism, separatism, extremism among member states. So, it is headquartered in Tashkent, Uzbekistan. Just remember this particular fact. RATS under SCO headquartered in Tashkent, Uzbekistan. Council of Ministers of Foreign Affairs. Then other mechanisms are also there. There are meetings between defense, security, economy and trade, culture, health, education, transport, etc. as well. So, those are some organizational structure related things here. So, this is the practice question for you. Just comment your answer in the comment section. Now, the second important article that we are going to discuss is about cost of pulses and oil imports. See, this particular analysis came in the Indian Express explain page. Important to know what exactly is the trends in these particular important crops. So, essentially these are some trends. So, you can see the trend shows there is no constant increase or decrease in the prices. Just remember this fact. UPSC has the habit of asking the prices of pulses is constantly increasing or decreasing in last 10 years. So, such sort of questions, such sort of statements are always to certain extent wrong, because there are always fluctuations in prices. In recent times we have the COVID event as well. So, most of the time the prices in that time period may have dropped or it may have increased as well. So, you cannot particularly assume that it may have increased or decreased constantly over the period of time. So you can see the prices of whether it is pulses, whether it is vegetable oils, particularly there is no constant trend. Okay, so essentially what is the news now, that the fluctuations in the MSP and market prices of the pulses as well as edible oils are variable sort of. So essentially cropping pattern of pulses. So essentially there are kharif soybean. Generally, it is grown from July to October season. Then there is Rabi. Under the Rabi crops included chana, chickpea, masoor, red lentil, which is particularly harvested in March. Summer, there is moong, green gram, sown post Rabi, matures in 60 to 70 days. So just remember these facts, very important, particularly from the perspective of agriculture prelims. Variety of crops. So you have soybean varieties, you have moong varieties, you have masoor, you have chana as well. So just remember one or two varieties, not that much important, just go through that briefly. Now, as I earlier said, there is market and MSP mismatch. See, this particular fact you can mention in mains as well when it comes to the effectiveness of MSP regime. So moong price is current market value is around 6,000 per quintal, but what the MSP declared by the state is 8682 per quintal. For similar is the situation when it comes to soybean price. So it is essentially taken from the Madhya Pradesh mandi here. Madhya Pradesh is very big sort of market for soybean, one of the largest producers of soybean in India, the state. So it is essentially the commercial value, the market value of soybean is currently around 4,100 to 4,200 per quintal. But what is the MSP? It is around 5382 now. So essentially it shows there is a market and MSP value mismatch. So essentially most of the time, there is no systematic MSP procurement as well in pulses. At the same time, edible oil varieties like soybean. So essentially there is no such systematic MSP procurement mechanism which is generally available for rice and wheat. So most of the time farmers end up selling their produce at the market prices. So they may not get the right MSP, although it is declared by the government. Lack of systematic MSP procurement hinders that benefit to the farmers. So essentially national trends, knowing the national trends in pulses is also important. See, essentially imports in 2024-25, almost $5.5 billion of imports were there. Highest ever it surpassed 2016 and 17 period, which is at $4.2 billion. So previous dip is observed in 27 to 22. Average imports down to 2.6 MT per year, approximately $1.7 billion due to high domestic output. So essentially, but suddenly we have the surge of import when it comes to pulses. So essentially reasons for rise in output earlier years between 2017 to 2022 is short duration, low irrigation varieties of chana and moong now grown in all seasons. So essentially these are some of the reasons which are observed in that particular article for the earlier increased output in recent years of pulses. Now the production drop in drought year. Recently we have seen El Nino year, which was around 23-24, output dropped, and at the same time we have seen the slight recovery as well from 23-24 to 24-25. So essentially now what is the import composition? So we have seen the rise in imports of pulses. So but what exactly, what amount of pulses we import from which countries? So particularly that data is also important. You can see yellow white peas, essentially quantity import is almost 2.2 million tons. It is majorly imported from Canada and Russia. We have chana, which is imported from Australia. We have arhar, which is essentially pigeon pea, which is imported from Mozambique and Myanmar. And then we have masoor, which is imported from Canada, Australia and US. Urad, particularly black gram, is also imported from Myanmar and Brazil. So just remember, that means these are the countries who majorly also produce pulses apart from India. So CPI inflation in pulses is also important highlight of the article. See, it peaked in May 2023, it hit double digits Now it has eased drastically, one of the reasons being the rise in imports. So in December 2024 it was around 3.8%, but the latest data suggests it has progressively failed to minus 8.2% now. So essentially you have seen the tremendous drop when it comes to CPI inflation in pulses. What about vegetable oil sector now? So let's see some overview of vegetable oil sector. So essentially we have seen the rising imports from 2013 to 2025, essentially $7.2 billion to $20.8 billion now. So you can imagine almost $21 billion of vegetable oil imports that we are currently doing. This data is still of 22-23. So you can imagine it must have crossed that amount by now. Breakup of imports is also important. See, we are majorly importing palm oil from Indonesia and Malaysia, soybean oil majorly from Argentina and Brazil, sunflower oil majorly from Russia, Ukraine and Argentina. So these countries are again the major producer of these particular oil crops. So remember that particular fact. So essentially domestic oil production. What is the domestic oil production? Only 10 MT from local oil seeds and byproducts. Import dependence over 60%. You can see our import dependence on the vegetable oil import. It is around 60%. So vegetable oil, what is the situation in inflation when it comes to vegetable oils? CPI inflation in oil is around 17.9%. It is in double digits since November 2024. Government response: cut customs duty on crude oil, palm, soybean and sunflower oil. Then we have, essentially government has taken steps to alleviate this particular inflation surge in vegetable oils. What are the global and domestic concerns in this regard particularly? There is a USDA outlook which shows duty cuts to further boost soybean and oil imports. Global vegetable oil output is projected to record at 235 MT. Okay. So, and domestic farmers concern, Soybean Processors Association of India warns cheaper oil imports may discourage domestic oil seed cultivation, that is but possible. Farmers may shift away from oil seeds in upcoming Kharif. So that can be also possible. See, most of the times government has cut the duties, that means it will promote the import surge, but it may be harmful to our own farmers. So our own farmers may get discouraged from cultivating the oil seeds. So essentially that's the warning given by the farmers organizations as well in recent times. So what are the key takeaways in this regard? Lack of MSP procurement for pulses oil seeds, which is leading to farmer distress. High imports plus low domestic prices, which is giving unattractive returns to the farmers. So duty cuts help consumers but hurt farmers, because it discourages the farmers to sow that particular seed crop. Need for policy alignment to balance self-sufficiency goals and import management. So we have to realign our own sort of import-export strategy in this regard. So this is actually the highlight of that particular article. This is particularly the practice question for you. Just comment your answer in the comment section. The next important article that we are going to discuss is very important from the perspective of majorly mains, at the same time essay, but some facts you can remember from the perspective of prelims as well. The Magna Carta. See, essentially what exactly is this Magna Carta? But before that, why is it news now? So sometimes back in May particularly, we have Harvard University discovered that one of the earliest versions of the Magna Carta in its collection. So essentially what happened at that point of time, that supposedly the copy of Magna Carta, that Harvard University has in its collection, turned out to be an original copy of the Magna Carta. So essentially that was huge news at that point of time, in particularly just in May 25. The version dates back to the year 1300. It was previously assumed to be copy, not an original from that period, but now it is considered as an original copy of the Magna Carta, which is in possession of Harvard University currently. Recognized as the basis of many constitutions worldwide according to Harvard Law School. So essentially this Magna Carta is the fundamental document which is considered as a basis for many constitutional treaties. So essentially date of signing June 15, 1215. Location Runnymede Meadows near London. Signed by King John of England under pressure from rebel barons. Meaning Magna Carta, Greater Charter, Great Charter. It is the Latin word Magna Carta, which means the Great Charter. So essentially, that King John in essentially in 13th century signed that particular document under the pressure of rebels. The context of medieval England, see, mostly, most of the time, just knowing the context is also important. What exactly, under which pressure, with what sort of pressure the King John signed that particular treaty or Magna Carta. The political background, let's see some political background in this regard. King John faced repeated military failures, loss of Normandy and Anjou in 1204 to France, defeat at the Battle of Bouvines in 1214 by King Philippe II of France. So, this is some political background. So, essentially King John at that point of time was under heavy military pressure. Economic burden to fund wars, John heavily taxed his subjects, angering the barons. Baronial revolt, discontented barons refused military support, forced John to accept limits to his own power. So, what is the nature of Magna Carta exactly? So, it has almost 63 clauses, 3,500 words, focus on distribution of power between the king and the elite, barons particularly. Key clauses, clause 39 is there, no free man can be punished except by lawful judgment or the law of the land. Clause 40 is another important thing, to no one will we sell, to no one will we deny or delay right or justice. Very important, very noble sort of principles that were included under the Magna Carta. So, that becomes the basis for many constitutions as well. Administrative use, copies were sent to all the counties for public reading in that regard. So, this is something, you must be knowing that it has the legal and symbolic value. It gave principle of rule of law, early human rights milestone. At the same time, it influenced the constitutions from UK Constitution and Bill of Rights to US Constitution and Bill of Rights as well. Particularly, aftermath and latter versions are also found. There is, 1216, John died and his son Henry III, age 9, crowned king, reaffirmed Magna Carta to restore peace. Then there is a reissues over the period of time. Then there are surviving copies, 4 original remains, 1297 version auctioned in 2007 for $21.3 million. So, it has huge historical significance value. But what are some criticisms and limitations, by the way? It has limited scope. It applied only to free men. Obviously, it just applied to the half the population, less than half of that point of time. Essentially, it excluded women. Did not aim to democratize power broadly, because it is the treaty between that king and the elites. It essentially excluded the lower citizens of the society. Elite centric, as I said, it ignored, or it actually did not consider the lowest strata of society. Enduring legacy, but it has very continuous and enduring legacy. It has symbolic value, as I said, and many democratic and constitutional evolutions worldwide has spread from the reading of Magna Carta at the same time. So, these are some scholarly views. Just go through that briefly, very important. So, this is the practice question for you. Just comment your answer in the comment section. Now, the fourth important article that we are going to discuss is about rethinking alcohol control in India, science in particularly. The article is featured in the science page of the Hindu. See, this is important from the perspective of GS2 health as well. Particularly, essentially, the alcohol consumption in India, what is the safe limit, by the way? It is 0 ml. Prevalence, almost this is very interesting sort of data here. What is the prevalence of alcohol consumption in India? See, almost 23% of Indian men consume alcohol, while only 1% of Indian women, according to NFHS 5 data. Just note down this very interesting data. So, essentially, drunkards are mostly men. That is the meaning of that particular data. Trends, per capita consumption increased by 240% in 2 decades. So, 240% increase in 2 decades. Nearly 50% of alcohol use is unrecorded. So, that is true. Most of the time, you must have seen the prohibition laws in states like Gujarat, there is Bihar. Okay. So, essentially, nearly 50% of alcohol use is unrecorded. Heavy episodic drinking, obviously, high with many needing clinical and social support is observed. So, alcohol addiction is one of the major health risks. Health and societal impact is obviously there. From injuries, mental illness, NCDs, including cancer, is observed. Then there are social consequences like aggression, crime, suicides, risky behavior. At the same time, domestic violence is another issue associated with it. Burden 2.6 million Delhis in 2021. What is Delhi, by the way? Disability adjusted life years. 2.6 million Delhis in 2021. 6.24 trillion rupees was the social cost. So, this is the social cost of consuming alcohol, alcohol addiction in particular. Determinants of alcohol consumption is also important. Biopsychological determinants are observed. There are biological like genetic predisposition to addiction. This is sort of pretty good excuse to have, by the way. Psychological, used to relieve stress, anxiety. It is said that it can relieve stress and anxiety. And there is a peer pressure as well, social pressure, urban lifestyle. There is media portrayal as well, which is responsible for the alcohol consumption. Commercial determinants are also there. New products, fruit flavored spirits, pre-mixed drinks are also promote the alcohol consumption. There is marketing tactics, there is bar promotions, digital influence, access, packaging. All these things sort of determines the alcohol consumption. So, essentially policy level determinants. What are the policy level determinants in that regard? There is industry influence, which essentially opposes stricter laws citing revenue, and there is another issue of state autonomy. So, essentially most of the time states control licensing, taxation and sale and pricing of the alcohol. So, most of the time you must have seen the states comes up with their own alcohol sort of prohibition on or policies in that regard particularly. There is a prohibition currently underway in Bihar, Gujarat, Mizoram and Nagaland. Then there is a promotion, Kerala's Akbari policy, Andhra's rupees 99 liquor scheme. So, these states promote alcohol as well. And there is online delivery. Currently, the online delivery is possible through Swiggy, Zomato, etc. as well. So, they are also delivering the alcohol online nowadays. So, what is the policy and regulation landscape, by the way, when it comes to regulating alcohol? As I said, most of the time the states are the primary authority who can control the alcohol regulation or alcohol policy. State level policy, as I said, legal drinking age varies from 18 to 25 years. It depends on the state that you are living in. Price regulation is there. It exists in 19 out of 33 states and UTs exist in 19 out of 33 states. So, essentially 9 states set only max prices. GST exclusion, states levy excise tax with vague definitions. So, essentially GST, under GST there is no alcohol. Most of the time many states levy the excise duties. It forms actually the major component of state level finances. So, revenue particularly for the state government. What about national level policy? That means at the national level there is no unified national alcohol policy. See, it is observed, as I said, states control the stakes here. So, that is why there is no national level alcohol policy. What are some relevant frameworks in that regard? There is National Action Plan for Drug Demand Reduction 21-22. It includes alcohol under Nasha Mukti Bharat Abhiyan. So, essentially there is a mention of alcohol which is included under central government's Nasha Mukti Bharat Abhiyan. Then there is National Mental Health Policy which discusses alcohol's role in mental health. National Health Policy of 2017 also advocated higher taxes to curb use. Particularly there is a National Suicide Prevention Strategy NSPS 2022 which identifies alcohol as a suicide risk, calls for national policy. National Action Plan and Monitoring Framework for Prevention and Control of Non-Communicable Diseases recommends national alcohol policy. So, these are some policies in themselves recommend national level alcohol policy. So, essentially we must have the regulated centralized national alcohol policy now. So, essentially there is a 7A strategy that particular policy must include. There is affordability, there is allocation, there is accessibility, advertisement, attractiveness, awareness and artificial intelligence. These are 7 A's that we can include in India's own national alcohol control policy and program. So essentially, it will deep ties with state revenue and political interest. It can address normalization in social spaces and digital platforms, and it may address lack of cohesive national framework at the same time. So essentially, considering all these issues, we must have national level alcohol control policy, so that we can have particularly the uniform policy all over India. So this is the practice question for you. Just comment your answer in the comment section. So the next important article in the coded section that we are going to discuss is about Kudumbashree. See, most of the time the editorials that we have that are coming in the newspapers mostly address the syllabus of GS3. Most of the time it is about defense, it is about urbanization and all those things. So most of the time what is ignored part is essentially GS 1, 2 and 4. So we are going to discuss one important area from GS2, women empowerment, particularly SHGs. So essentially just note down some important SHG which we are going to discuss in this particular article, so that you can use those SHGs in your own answers. Examples of SHGs. So one of the foremost and most successful example of women-led SHG program, which is also promoted by state, particularly Kerala, is Kudumbashree. So essentially the current news is Delhi getting its first Kudumbashree cafe. See, most of the time these sort of women-led SHGs are pioneering at the Gramin, at the local, very rural level, which are becoming a stepping stone for our own women folk through the financial empowerment particularly. So Cafe Kudumbashree, a 3-month-old eatery near India Gate, is gaining popularity for its authentic and affordable Kerala food. So we have our own, particularly in Delhi, this particular Kudumbashree cafe. So essentially, what exactly is this Kudumbashree project now? Kudumbashree is a women-centered program launched in 1998 aimed at eradicating poverty through community participation and action. It aims to improve living conditions for the poor, particularly women, through various initiatives. So essentially, it is a part of poverty eradication program of the Kerala government, which was launched way back in 1998. The State Poverty Eradication Mission is also known as Kudumbashree Mission. It is the agency that promotes and supports the community network. So essentially, it works through community-based network. It operates as a community-based network with 3-tiered structure. There is a neighborhood groups, NHGs. These are the foundational units typically consisting of women from a specific neighborhood. Then there are area development societies. These are formed at the ward level, coordinating activities of the NHGs within their area. Then there are community development societies. These are established at the local government level, panchayat or municipality, and oversee the entire program within their jurisdiction. So let's see some success of the Kudumbashree project. So you can use such data and the points here in your answers, how SHGs can empower women. So there is, Kudumbashree project, as I said, is the foremost when it comes to women empowerment, with over 46 lakh members and in 3.09 lakh neighborhood groups. It is considered one of the world's largest network of women. Women take leadership roles in managing cooperatives and local governance. Social development, actively involved in social issues, social causes particularly, for example, interventions in infant mortality and malnutrition deaths. Economic independence, it is giving women economic independence. It promotes micro enterprises, over 1.08 lakh, ranging from catering, tailoring, farming to IT services. Community development and financial inclusion is another benefit of this Kudumbashree project. So what are some other successful women-led SHG projects, by the way? This particular slide here is very important. Note down few of the women-led SHG projects apart from the state-led Kudumbashree. So there is a Jivika, Bihar. Over 1 crore women organized into SHGs under Bihar Rural Livelihood Project, focused on livestock rearing, handicrafts and agribusiness. Jivika, Bihar first. Mahila Vikas, Arthik Vikas Mahamandal, Mavim, that is in Maharashtra, which has supported over 2.5 lakh women SHGs. Tejaswini Rural Women Empowerment Program, which is operational in MP and Maharashtra. There is SHG Bank Linkage Program, which is NABARD led program. Then there is Meghalaya Livelihood and Access to Markets Project, Meghalaya LAMP project at the same time. So you just note down these women-led SHG projects. Now the thing is, there is another important SHG called Shri Mahila Griha Udyog Lijjat Papad. Lijjat Papad is one of the foremost, examples of women-led SHGs, particularly Lijjat Papad in Maharashtra. So it is a pioneer of women's collective entrepreneurship. It has employed more than 45,000 women across India. It produces papad, spices and all those things. So essentially, it is one of the successful ventures or women-led entrepreneurship. So in conclusion, we can say that women SHGs play a vital role when it comes to achieving SDG 5, which is gender equality, by enhancing women's access to finance, skills and decision making. They promote economic independence, social empowerment and community leadership, making them key drivers of inclusive and sustainable development at the same time. So essentially, we must promote women-led entrepreneurship. At the same time, women-led SHGs are playing important role in that particular regard. So this is the practice question for you. So that's it from my side, and stay tuned for another edition of Daily News Analysis. Thank you.